Good morning and welcome to my channel. My name is Aryan Singh Rana and today I'm here with another project. Today's project is Habit Maker. We need to create a web application that helps people to finish any task or create a new habit. Note, use most appropriate hook according to your requirements. Use proper form of validation like user has to add all four values. We simply need to create a habit maker or a task manager some sort in some sorts like as you can see that what to do, it should have fields like what to do, where to do, why to do, and the date that it needed to be done. And it should show you have no task when there is no task, and it should also have a save button. And when there is a task entered by the user, it should show down below as well. And it also should have a delete button. So it means that when we click on delete, it should delete that task, specific task only. And there is a requirement over here, which is that we need to see the proper. We need to have a proper validation system, which is that the user cannot just simply leave one of the four fields, or leave all four fields and simply click on save, and it should show the relevant data, but it won't show the fields that the user haven't input. So we need to prevent that. So it means that the user should interact with or should enter the values in all four fields, and then only the user should be allowed to save the task. This is my code. Now, currently, I have opened my app.js file in my React project. This is the main file, or you can say that whatever we see on a web page or web application is outputted through the app.js. And as you can see that first, I created a task container. Now let me just show you how my code would be looking. This is what my code looks like after whatever I have coded. So I first created a task container component. Now as you can see that it has a opening tag and it has a closing tag as well. Now what is this representing? Now you can see that this green color, this green gradient box over here, this is my task container component. And inside my task container components, there are two more components, which is habit input and show habits. So the fields, including this what to do field, where to do field, why to do field, and date field, and as well as my save button is within my user input component. Now, show habit comes under this one over here, which says you have no task. If I enter something, let's say I want to make sure that I do my revision. Let's say take the yes revision. Revision where to do in my hostel, and why to do for test, or you can simply say for upcoming test. Upcoming test, okay? And let's mark it over here. Let's say we have a test a day after tomorrow. So if I save button, as you can see that my task has been added. It says revision hostel for upcoming test, and the date is over here. So if I click on my delete button, it should delete my task. So as you can see that it is also deleting my task. For now, just as you can see that it added my task over here. If there are multiple tasks, let's say test, where to do again uh, hostel, and why to do for tomorrow, just a second, tomorrow test. Okay, just a second, let's say upcoming coming test. Okay, and again we'll simply add it. Now let's add another function, sorry, another task. Let's say play, and where to do on ground, and why to do to stay fit. Okay, and let it be tomorrow. Now as you can see that my task container cards size as well increased as well, and as you can see that I have two tasks over here. The showing of the task is being handled by show habits. Now I will show you how the transfer of data from one component to other component is taking place. It is being taken place with the help of lifting up of state. This is a concept in which we use a use state command. and we play if two simultaneous components need a same data transfer between each other, then what we do is that we place a use state in their closest parent, closest common parent. So as you can see that its closest common parent for habit and show habits would be our app.js. App.js is our closest common parent or closest common ancestor. So we will place a use state over here, which will help us to take data from the user input component and then pass it forward as a prop to our show habit. Now, how are we doing that? First, what I did is that, as you can see that first I created a temporary variable. Also, do not forget to import the things like we are using component and we are applying CSS. So importing of those is really important. And of course, do not forget about importing the use state for using the use state functionality or variable. So yes, as you can see that first I created a var type temp array. Because it is var, so it means that within this function I can access it anywhere. Now coming to my use state, as you can see that I've created my use state using a const keyword, and the variable would be the show habits, and its setter function is set show habits, and the default value within it is an empty array. So as you can see that I have created an empty array for its default value. Now what will be happening is that first I created a function which would be initiated inside my user input component. So as you can see that habit input, not user input. I've been saying it as user input. It's actually habit input. What would happen is that first I have created a function keeping in mind that this function would only be initiated in my habit input component. So how am I passing it? First, I gave it an attribute or a key which is add habit data. Then is equal to, and then inside my curly braces. Now, as we know, when we write inside a component, when we write something inside our return command, then it is in XML language, or you can say it is in it is in markup language. And to escape into the JS command, we need to use a curly braces. It means that whatever command which is written inside my curly braces is a JavaScript code. So as you can see that I passed my function through this. So my function name is add habit. So I am passing my function to my habit input component using a using prop over here. So that's how it would be happen. I will be passing my function. The function would be doing is that it would be taking my habit data from the habit input. After that, it would be using the setter function of show habit, as you can see that set show habits, and it would be then first destructuring whatever show habits variable is currently holding. So how I the main thing comes how I am storing my data. So I am storing my data by using an array of objects. So it means that I am using an array, and each and every element within my array is an object in itself, and each object contain the value for, or sorry, each object has four keys. Four keys would be like first key would be like what, second key would be like where, third key would be like why, and the fourth key would be my date. So as you can see, first what is I access my value using my what key. So this value was accessed. Then where key I use my where key for my within my object to access this value, and why then I use my y key and then my date key. So that's how my data is being stored. So I used restructured show habits over here so that I do not lose any of my previously stored tasks. Because if I remove this, I can show you how it works. If I remove this, then what would happen is that the setter function simply stores whatever new object that the habit input gives it, and it would totally forget about what the previous task the show habit variable was storing. So if I refresh my page and let's say one, okay, one and date to be like anything like this, okay, and then I save it. Now if I try to add another function, let's say two, two, and the date could be like anything. Now remember, the setter function sets the whatever the object my habit input is returning. So I am not deconstructing the original value the show habit is holding. So the original value that the show habits is holding would be completely replaced by this habit date with this array which contains a single object, because you habit input is only returning a single object. So it would only contain an array of a single object, which is habit data. So if I use my save over here, as you can see that it did not added my task. Instead what it did is replaced my previous task, and that's how it works. That's why the destructuring of show habit is really necessary, so that it can also retain whatever previous value it was holding, and then add on new values as well. So if I again write something like 3, 3, 3, and I pass my value something like this, then it should, yes, as you can see that it is retaining its previous stored data, and then adding on the new habit data that is being provided by a component habit input. Now let me show you how habit input is working. So as you can see that this is my habit input component. Let me go through. Let me go through the structure of the habit input. So the input thing is being taken care by our form element. So inside a form element, there are 4 input fields. One is for what to do of text type. Second is our where to do of text type again, and same for the why to do section. But for the date section, I'm using the input field of date data type, date type. So as you can see that that's how it's happening. Now over here again, I used a use state over here. Now what use state would be holding? The use state over here that I use is habit data, and its setter function is set habit data. Now the default value that the use state will be holding is an object. Like I told you, it is an object, and what object is holding? It holds multiple key value pairs of like what and its corresponding value, where its corresponding value, y is key and its corresponding value, and date and then its corresponding value. Now the currently the default value is of empty string, because user haven't entered anything. Now how the updation command is taking place. Now whenever user interacts with our input field or enter something or delete something, that it is then it is considered it is considered as uh, change in the input field. And to record or to keep track of the changes inside my input field, we use an event listener called as on change. Now, what happens on change? Whenever the user interacts with the input field, like entering something, deleting something, then this event listener triggers. And what this event listener does, that I am triggering my another function that I created inside this component only, which is handle change. Okay, so I forgot about the other attributes of the input component. So what is happening is that I am storing the value as the habit data dot what. So for the what input field, and habit data dot where value for the where input field, and similarly for the rest of them. Now, if in the default storage in the default value is currently an empty string, so that's why the value would simply show nothing. Now, what happens is if I enter something like anything, and if I refresh my page, then you would see that as you can see that this is a default value, and this would become a default value. uh, yes, if I enter something inside my inside my value for the word key, then value would replace whatever input there was with this value. So of course we do not want that. That's why I used an empty string over here. So it do not replace anything, and the placeholder would do its work. Now placeholder, as everyone knows, it is known as the text that is shown inside my input field when there is nothing in the input field. So if I enter anything, the placeholder would vanish. If there is nothing, then input placeholder would be showing or giving a direction of what should be entered here. So like here, it is what to do. Just a second. I just, yes, what to do. Now, input again, whenever there is a change inside the input field, then the values, then this attribute value would be updated automatically. Now, what we need to do is we need to access this value and then store it in our use state. So how is it happening? It happening using the function handle change, and it takes the parameter input of object E. Now, what is an object E? Each and every form element has its own object, and its object has multiple attributes or multiple key value pairs. Some can be functions, and some can be the various aspects of that particular element. Now, for our case, what we need is our inside the E object, we need a target key which contains our multiple values or attributes that current element is holding. So inside our handle change, as you can see that first I created my temp object, and what I did is that I copied whatever the habit data was currently holding. Just sorry. So I deconstructed my habit data. So through the deconstruction, each and every key value pair would be stored inside my temp data. So because of this deconstruction, how it would be appearing? It would be appearing like this. Then this currently, because it do not hold anything, then where, then this, similarly as it would go on till date, and y as well. I skipped y. So let's say y. So when the destructuring they take place, it would show me, it would be like this, but it is a long process to just write and mention each and every key. So we use these three dots, which is the spread operator, and it would deconstruct my habit data. Now after that, as you can see that I use e dot target. I need to access my ID. Now ID is what would be considered as a key, and when we know the basic concept of an object is that when we already have a key value pair and we again try to input a new we try to update a value, then what we need to do is that we need to know the key that it already has, and then we use object name dot operator, then the key of whose value we need to be updated. So as we know, there are we know that there are only keys which are what, where, why, and date, which should show the corresponding fields value, their respective fields value. So what I did is that I extracted my ID using the E object. So E dot target dot ID shows would give me my respective ID of the respective input field. But because I would be using over here, so it would create an error because we cannot access my temp like temp dot e dot target target.id. Now, why is that? Because first, temp is an object, and E is a whole new other object in itself. So we cannot access my ID using this. So what I did, I deconstructed my target attribute, and through deconstruction, I only needed my ID at key. So as you can see that I deconstructed my target object, which holds the which holds the ID of the respective input field. Now each time the handle change is called, the E object would be changed according to where it is being called from. So if it is called from what input field, then E would represent the first input field. If it is called from, for example, the user is changing the fourth field, which is our date field, then it would be called from here. So E would represent my fourth field's object. So that's why that's how I would be extracting each and every input field's ID. And now how am I updating that? First again I destructured my temp over here. So it made a temp object over here. So it would again give me all these value inside my temporary object. Now after that, what I'm doing, I'm again writing, for example, if the handle change function was triggered by my what input field, because my user is currently interacting with my what input field. So what is would happen is that I would it would be shown like this: what comma and whatever the input was. Just a second. What comma and whatever the input was. It was something like let's say test. Okay. So now, as you can see that there are two keys, and as we know, the JavaScript runs line by line and from left to right. So what would happen is that first it would store this key, then this key, then this key, then this key, and again it would then it would go over here. Now, as we know that already a key with its value, a same key which was what and has its previous value was stored previously. But because I am using this key again over here, so it what would happen is that the JavaScript would update the previous value and it would show me like this. Okay, so now so that's how I'm updating my each and every key within my object. Now, after the updation, again, I'm using my setter function for my use state habit data. And inside of it, I'm creating an object using these curly braces. And after that, three dots, just a second. After that, I use three dots, which are my spread operator, and then my updated temp. Now, that's how I'm storing my each and every key and value pair inside my use state habit data. Now, again, what would happen if we click on save? Okay, so this is my save button. So what happens in my save button, whenever there is a button inside my form and we click on that button, then the form by default takes it as a submit operation. So what would happen is that uh, inside my form tag, as you can see that I called another event listener, which is on submit. So whenever a button is clicked inside a form, it is considered as a submit button. So when the form detects there is an input, there is a click on the button. So this event trigger would activate and it would trigger this function which is handle submit. What is happening inside my handle submit is that first, again, it takes the value e. Okay, so e is our form's own object, and inside of my object there is a specific function that is predefined function which is prevent default. Now, in React.js, the form has a default behavior of whenever the user clicks on the button, and it would simply by simply clicking on the button, it will refresh my whole page. Now, that is the default behavior. Now, to stop that behavior, what we do is that we call e.prevent default. So, e's are, as I told you, every form element has its own object, and object contain multiple keys and sometimes functions also as well. So it has a predefined function which is prevent default. So when we click on our save button, it will prevent the form to refresh the whole page. Now, again, when we come to our agenda or the project that we need to make, it was mentioned that we need to use proper form of validation in which user should enter all, should enter something in all four fields. And then and only then it should be the user should be allowed to save the task. Now, how am I handling that? Using this command over here, this if command over here. Now, as we know, our habit is an object. Now, object has keys and values. Now, to make the array of only values, to make the value of all the to make the array of all the values that are currently available inside my object, I use this command object.val then object name within the parenthesis. So it would give me an array of all the values that are currently inside my habit data object. So after that, I used my sum function over here. So what sum function does that? It iterates through each and every element, and whenever the specified condition inside my sum function, so sum function uses a callback function. As you can see that I used my arrow function over here. So what it does that the sum function which would go through each and every element, and whenever at a moment it finds a element that satisfies its condition, then it would stop the iteration then and there only, and it would return true. It means that there is at least some element that satisfies the specific condition that we have entered inside a callback function. So what I am checking for, as we know that the default value in each and every field is empty string. So when would be the empty string would be viable? When to check if our user has interacted with each and every field, or user has entered something inside each and every field. How do we check that? We check if each and every value inside currently inside my habit data is being held each and every value that is currently my habit data is holding is default value or not. So we know that the default value was our empty string. So what it would do that dot sum then arrow function, it takes input as x. It would now as we know that it is currently iterating on the values array that we took from the habit data. So x is our currently one of the values within our array. So it would check if x triple equals to empty string. If it is equal to empty string, then it would return true, and the sum function would stop there, and it would return true that there is at least one field that is holding the default value, which was our empty string, which signifies that our user has not entered anything in that specific field. And then what would happen is that this if condition has been met, and it would initiate this alert function, and it would say that please fill all the fields below before saving. So this alert would pop up, and to end this handle submit function, I am using return over here, because if I do not use return over here, then it would go to this add habit data. And as I told you, this add habit data was the function that we defined inside our app.js, and it would initiate this function from here, and it would send my habit data, which is our object. And remember, if I'm not using the return over here, then it would add the records including the empty field data, and it would show me it would show me an empty cell within my task array, within my one of the tasks, because I forgot to end my function then and there only. So that's how I am handling my task. That's how I'm validating all four inputs. Now, as I told you, if this condition doesn't satisfy, then what would happen is that it would trigger this function, which is being declared in our app.js. And app.js, as I told you before, it is taking habit data as an input, and it is storing it by first destructuring it, whatever the previous value the show habit was holding, and then adding our habit data that was given by our habit input. That's how, yes. After that, of course, we are resetting the habit data value to its default state. Because if we do not do that, then what would happen is that, let me just show you. If I simply Control X, okay, I am not resetting my values. Okay, remember. Now, what would happen is that first, if I enter something, let's say 1, 1, and the date should be like something like, let's say this one. Now, I am not resetting my data over here. As you can see that the previous value is still over here. Why is that? Because my data was not resetted to my default value. And as I told you, I am using the value as I am using the habit data's key and value pair as the value attribute for each and every input field. And what happens is that if value attributes contain any data, then it defaultly shows that data inside an input field, and that is not exactly what we want. What we want is that when we click on save, then this data should disappear from here, and the placeholder then should get activated, because as I told you, placeholder get activated when there is nothing inside our input field. So to do that, what we need to what we need to do is that we need to reset our habit data. So how are we doing that? By simply again calling the setter function, and it would update all the key all the key it would update all the key with the default value as empty strings. So if we again enter our data, it would simply when we click on the save button, it would remove the function. It would remove the previous data. So as you can see that it removed the previous data, and our placeholder got activated. So that's all was the function of my habit input. Now let's go to how the showing of the data takes place. First, going to show you how I am passing it. So as you can see that I am using a prop key, which is show, and it would pass my show habits use state. Now, as I told you in app.js, the show habit use state is the array of objects. So each object represents my individual separate tasks. Okay. After that, also, as I told you, there is the functionality for deleting a specific task. So how I am doing that? I am again doing that all processing inside my app.js. Now, why I'm doing that? Again, when we use states, when we use a setter function of the use state, it do two things. First, it updates the value. Second, it re-renders the whole component. Now, what happens is that when we are deleting some data from our pre-existing array, or we are deleting our data, let's say we are deleting a data, and we need to show these changes that okay, this data has been deleted, but it won't be shown if my component was first rendered, then the process, as you can see that it was first rendered. Then I clicked on delete button, then it got removed. How is it happening is that when I click on my delete button, this function gets initiated, and this function first, as you can see that the temp was our array and show habit was our array of objects. So first I'm copying my temp with the show habits, and then I'm splicing. The splice function does that. It removes a specific element and it has three input parameters. First is the index from where we need to begin the operation. Then the number of delete elements. It means that how many elements do we need to delete starting from the index value. So I want to delete the current value only. So that's why is one over here. Then comes the third parameter is what we want to add in that index. But we only need to delete something. So that's why I'm not using the third parameter. So that's how the splice work. And after the term temp is being updated, I'm again using the setter function to update my show habits. Now the show habit is being updated. So what would happen? It would re-trigger the components. It would trigger the re-render of the both components, which is habit and show habits. So now, as I told you previously, the show habit was containing the data that which needs to be deleted. So let's say the example, these are the data, and I want to delete two. So currently it was holding two. When I click on delete, then it got deleted. How? Because when I click delete, the show data triggered my function, which is delete habit, which is in my app.js. It updated my show habit value due to these commands, and it triggered my setter function. So what setter function did that? It updated the show habits value. Then it triggered the component show habit and habit input as well. So what it did that now it was passing a show habit value which did not contained my task, which was task 2. Again, if it does not contain task 2, then it won't show it. So that's how the rendering of the through the help of the use state takes place. That's why the use state in itself is very useful. So now coming to my show habit data, as you can see that I will go through it very quickly because it's very simple. So as you can see that first I am checking if the size of my array which is I am getting is zero or not. If it is zero, it means that is a user have not entered anything. So it should show me a message. So as you can see that first I used show first okay. So first I deconstructed my prop over here. As you can see that the prop, what prop would be holding is that, just a second. The prop is holding show and deleted. Okay. Yes, the prop is holding show and delete it. So I deconstructed it using my object, deconstructing object. First, I created an object and I simply wrote my keys that the prop is passing. So this is how I constructed it, and after that I created a variable which is let show task. And first, what I did that I checked if my array is of zero length. If it is zero length, it means that the user has not entered anything. If it is of zero length, then what it would do, it would store this markup language inside my show task variable, which is a table row, and inside a table row, it is the heading which says you have no task. And what it would show me a message like this. As you can see that currently there are no tasks, so it shows you have no task. Now, how is it showing? As you can see that it returns a div parent tag which contains my table tag, and inside my table tag within the curly parenthesis is our variable show task, which currently holds our markup language, this one, because currently there is no data. If there is some data, then this if condition would trigger, which initiates a map function over my show array. So as I told you, our show is array of object which is being passed by the app.js. So the map, what would map function do? First, map function would take my first element as task. So as you can see that inside my map function, I use the arrow callback function. It takes two input, which is index of the current element and the current element itself. Oh, so I am taking the task as my current elements variable. So what it would do, first I am creating a table row and it is storing my key. So key is used to uniquely identify an element inside my form. So whenever we need to update a specific table row or specific element, we always need a specific or unique identification. So I am using key over here as my unique identification. So it would hold index as my key. Okay. Now inside my table row, I created one, two, three, four, five table data. So it represents five columns. First column would store my task dot what. So as I told you, each element is an object itself, and as we all know that the object that we are using over here contains four keys, which is what, where, why, and date. So I am simply accessing my those keys value over here, as you can see that inside my curly braces, which is task.what, task.where, task.why, task.date. Now again, as we have seen that there is a delete function that helps us to delete the task. As you can see that there is a delete function over here. So how is it happening is that I created a fifth table data, which represents my fifth column, and it holds my button. Now, what the button is doing, it shows the text which is delete, and it whenever the user clicks on it, it would activate my this event listener, which is on click event listener. The name specifies what its function is by itself, which is it records or it sees whenever the user clicks on this button, it would initiate this arrow function, and what with this arrow function in turn initiate, it would initiate my deleted function and the parameter of the specific index the table row represents. So deleted function, as we have known, is the function that we define on the app.js, and it would return my index. As I told you, each table row represents a specific a task specific position. So if I send my index to my deleted function, what it would do that it would trigger this function, and it would simply remove that object at that specific position, and then update the whole list, like I told you before how its updation is done. And that's how my task would be deleted when the re-rendering of the whole component takes place with the help of this setter function. So that's how my code works. Again, you might be curious that how my table height is being increasing and decreasing. So if I enter no amount, as you can see that, of course, I forgot to mention about my validation, how it's working. So as you can see that I first simply entered, I interacted with my first value, first input field, and left the rest of the three empty. So if I click on save, it shows me a pop-up which says that please fill all the fields below before saving. So as you can see that my validation is working properly. So let's say if two again and two again, and I leave my date input field empty. Again, if I press enter or click on my save button, it should also, yes, as you can see that the alert function is working completely fine. So yeah, you might be wondering how the size of this card is increasing and decreasing according to the number of tasks we are giving to it. So as you can see that if this is the current size of my card. So if I click on save, as you can see that the card size increased and it accommodated the height, it accommodated to the height of the second task as well. How am I doing that? It's all the magic of the CSS that I'm using for the card. So as you can see that these two functions are really important. But as I told you that task container is a container that holds my two components, which is habit input and show habit. So what I'm doing is that first mentioning that the minimum height of the card should not precede more than 39 VH. Now VH is a vertical height which is used for our responsive designing. So it means that the minimum heights would always remain to 39 VH. Okay. Now after that, I used height auto. Now what height auto is does that it looks if there is an overflow out of the container, and if there is an overflow out of the container, then it would increase its height according to the remaining content that has overflown, and it would increase it to till that point. So that's how my height auto works, and that's how my card size is increasing according to the number of inputs it has. So as you can see that. it is increasing now. As you can see that size again increased, and it would keep on increasing as we keep on adding my tasks. And as you can see that the delete function is also working. I've shown you before. If I click on delete, the task 2 should get deleted. As you can see that the deletion is also working. Well, as you can see that I have achieved all the agendas within my project, and that's how my code is working. You can find the repository for GitHub repository for this whole project inside the description down below. I've linked it there, and you can access it. I first prefer that you go through the whole video, then try to code it yourself. And if there's some problem, then go through my repository to get a more clearer understanding. Do not just copy and paste. Well, that's all, and thanks for watching.